What is up, everyone? Welcome to the Whiskey Morgue Podcast. Around here, we pour a drink, we carve into some horror, and kind of whatever else we want, as you'll see tonight. I'm your host, Mike, and today I am joined by Matt Kusek. Um, Man, labels go on. Whiskey reviewer, sneaker enthusiast, contributor to Malt Review. He has the Swish Life podcast. You might recognize his voice from recent episodes of Bourbon Pursuit. And if you're watching the video version, just to correct everyone, this isn't Pedro Pascal, okay? Just to clarify any confusion off the bat. Matt, how's it going, brother?
Hey man, it's a long time coming. I mean, we've been talking about this for a while, so super happy to be here. Thanks for having me.
No worries, man. I feel the same. Like, you do this thing, you jump on. It's been like 6 years of doing Whiskey Morgue. In passing, in comment sections, seeing you razz people, and it's like I feel like I know you, but we've never actually had a conversation. So, yeah, this is a long time overdue. Timing's good because it's Air Max week, and I figured we could talk about some shoes. I want to touch on everything because, like, I will say before we even get into anything. I admire what you do because from the beginning, I never wanted to be just whiskey. I was always kind of like, what's my angle? You know what I mean? There's people out there who are amazing photographers who
Hmm.
can capture the bottle, and I'm like, they have paid jobs, something that's not my jam, right? So I'm like, what do I do? I drink whiskey and watch horror, and that just became my thing. And likewise with you, there's so many facets to the shoes, as you can see if you're watching the video version. I'm sure it's only a minor fraction of a vast collection of Nike shoes. But then you got like the grilling, and you're just involved in so much. So I was like, I don't even know where to start jumping on here, but I was excited because I right away wanted to go into shoes, and you said, hold up. You're like, I'm from Chicago, and there's a certain few things that really are integral to Chicago identity, right? We got Malort, we got
Oh God,
pizza, but then we got Svengoolie. So
that was my in, everybody.
yeah, and Svengoolie, legendary horror host. So I thought we would just go into shoes, and we will. We're gonna get there, like Halloween releases and horror crossovers. So much to talk about. But I wanted to start with Svengoolie. So was this something that you grew up like watching? Was it your gateway into horror films?
It was because, as a kid, you start to stay up late on Saturdays, or you start to stay up late a little bit, like Sunday night into Sunday morning, Saturday night into Sunday morning, I should say. And Svengoolie was that guy. He bounced around time wise. He really did bounce around, but it was the first time like kind of seeing something that, by the time I was a kid in the 80s and 90s, some of that stuff that he was showing from like the 60s, 70s, 30s, 40s, 50s, right? Like he's
Yeah.
showing all these old-timey stuff that was kind of safe, but it's still
Mhm.
like, wow, Plan 9 from Outer Space. I didn't know this was like the worst movie of all time. And then, he's giving this commentary and this background, and this is before VH1 was doing like was that pop-up video? Is that what they called it?
Yeah, pop-up
But
video.
so like that, those little nuggets before and after, I'm a facts guy, right? Like I love facts about everything, as you
Yeah.
guys will find out. So Svengoolie to me was so neat. And then he would do the parody songs. So then
Yes.
he would do the parody songs along the way. And then, I didn't have cable growing up. So in the States here, we had cable television and broadcast television. So Svengoolie was local. And I guess like the kids that grew up with cable, they knew Mystery Science Theater 3000 or
Yeah.
whatever it was. And I was just like, this feels like a Svengoolie ripoff. And there's for those of you that know Svengoolie, he used to do something called Sven Surround, which is where for one segment of the movie he would comment versus like Mystery Science Theater that would like comment throughout the movie and give like their little 2 cents. So Svengoolie was my gateway into horror movies, and mostly like the B horror, the campy horror. Uh,
Yeah.
you know, I'm not the Saw type. I'm not into the Saw stuff. Killer Clowns from Outer Space never made it past 15 minutes. That's the one where he
Although
knocks
although
the
he did
guy's
have
head
a
off.
good he did have a good parody song for that one, the Bad Bad Killer Clowns. I remember.
That's right. That was fantastic. I'm like, well, and that's the other thing too. Like the thing I love about horror movies, even if they were a little too much or too intense for me, I could just have them in the background and be playing video games on another TV or something like that. So yeah, that's
Yeah.
my intro to horror.
It made me think about like the importance of the horror host. So Sanguli didn't go like national until 2011. So like a long time coming. So I mean, people knew about him, and you would catch like tapings and whatnot. But then it became widely broadcasted in 2011. But so I decided to wear this shirt here because this is Joe Bob Briggs, and we're talking like TNT. So they in the same vein as Svengoolie, where these are your horror hosts, and Elvira did the same thing, which is cool. But I think about this because I still watch Joe Bob, I still watch Svengoolie, and yeah, like I think you nailed it on the head. Where it doesn't matter if the movie's horrible. I want to know the nuggets of information behind it, like something that happened while filming or how this project came together. And suddenly it didn't really matter what movie you're watching. And I was like, how does this parallel with like whiskey influencers or and I realized that like, it's kind of that buffer of like the storytelling and the narrative, right? So who would you say in the horror community is the Svengoolie uh, of of the community in terms of like entertainment, like slapstick, fun,
Oh
bit of
gosh,
parody?
that's the one that comes to mind, like I think the funniest guy right now is Joe from Iowa, which is blind basement pig, right?
Yeah,
Like he's got to be the most hilarious, right?
yeah,
Like he might, I don't know if he'll come up with a, I heard he's good at karaoke. I heard he does Four Non Blondes quite well. I don't know if he'll come up with a parody song
yeah.
necessarily, but I think Joe's like the most hilarious. Now, as far as like somebody who would like connect the dots in a fun way, right? Like, oh, Vincent Price was in this and his cousin was in this and the uncle was in this.
Yeah.
I think Fred's kind of that guy. Fred Minnick knows like everybody who worked at every distillery, when, where, and kind of like
Historian as
inter
well. Yeah.
1,000% a historian, So shout out
Yeah.
to Fred. I love Fred like that. But that's really good because I don't know anybody that does. It's hard to find somebody that does the slapstick along with the informative, quite like Svengoolie did, right? Like quite
Yeah.
like that. But man, that is such a good question. So it might come to me in like a half hour. So don't be
No, but
surprised
I
if
think
my rabbit
those
brain.
nominees are pretty good too. And like I think the we were talking about before jumping on here how um when we got into this we were so worried about being so polished and putting out content and more and more we're kind of just pulling back the veil and I find like a lot of our like those favorite content creators are kind of doing more of that where you're just kind of throwing anything out there and just being a little bit more raw and genuine. I feel like we're all trying to channel a little bit more of the fun in the Svengoolie in there as well.
I got caught very early on, right? So the reason I use my real name, everybody, is that I was trying to be a writer at the time, right? So
Yeah.
as you mentioned, Malt Review, rest in peace, wrote there with Frank Dobbins, Taylor Cope, even David Thomas Tower did an article for
Yeah.
Malt Reviews. So it kind of like was like the writers underground lab, like where we all kind of came from. Now they all went on to have great careers writing for Forbes and VinePair and Drink Hacker, and I'm doing the Instagram slapstick shit. But you know, but the cool thing is like we all stay tight all these years later.
Yeah.
Like I've only met Frank twice, and this past weekend was the second time that I met Frank. But Frank was the first to comment on one of my Knob Creek reviews, and
Yeah.
kind of like that. So, and most people don't know that intertangled history. Everybody's jumping in, but the going back to why I use my real name, and then I got caught with like. Okay, like around 2021, I get invited to be co-host of the Swoosh Life podcast. So I'm like, okay, do I keep them completely separate? But I love, oh, the lights went out. Oh, spooky. I
This
love it.
is yeah.
This is super. Whoa, check out this lighting. All right, hold on. Wow, that might be a sign. Let's see. Okay, here we go.
Yeah.
We're back. We're back, everybody.
We thought we were doing Matt's history, but now we're doing a seance.
That's right. Get out the Ouija board. But so I started to intermingle it because I was like, look, I cannot be a golfer year round because I live in Chicago. So there's a lot of people that make golf content. They live in Arizona, they live in Florida, they live in California. Maybe they belong to a golf club. I don't have those kinds of means. I'll never compete with them. And then I am close to whiskey, so like whiskey always kind of like satisfied the day, if that
Yeah.
makes sense, right? Like day to day, and it's part of like who I am, and I love it. And as I grew into it, I said, you know what? I want to legitimize whiskey drinking. So
Mhm.
I kept my real name. And then to your point about like, are we in our garage? We are in my garage,
We are both in our garages right now.
and I consciously made the decision. And you'll see like my earlier reviews. If you could scroll down far enough on my page, you'll see just the unfinished wall, which is still unfinished, by the way, 5 years
Yeah.
later. And I said, I'm just gonna put shoes in the background. I,
Yeah.
I don't want to impress everybody with a lineup of Elijah Craig barrel proofs and Pappies and Wellers and all this stuff. And no offense to the folks that are doing that. No offense.
Mhm.
But like you, I wanted to mix my passion for this, which is the shoes behind me, with my passion for whiskey and say, like, hey, everyday normal guys with jobs, and my day job is working for a grilling company. So you mentioned that, right? Like I work
Yeah.
for a grilling company. We can have hobbies outside of whiskey, be functional members of society, and not to be long-winded, but the last point I'll make, and this is the thing that like always gets me. If a guy shows a wall full of wine, everybody goes, "Oh, sophisticated. He's got to be, well invested, and he knows,
Yeah.
he's very, very polished." Show somebody with a wall of whiskey, and everybody's like, "Wow, you got a problem." Like, like, you sure you need all that whiskey? Meanwhile, if you have a Chateau de whatever, that's
Yeah.
okay. Right.
As someone who has my whole setup like in the dining room, I always thought people would come by and be wowed by my curated lineup of whiskeys, and everyone's just like, dude, you have a lot of whiskey, and that's it. That's where it ends. And they're like, also, do you have any vodka?
Right, right. Do you have any clear spirits?
Yeah,
This
yeah,
is gonna burn my face off, unfortunately. That kind of thing. And the other thing too is like to legit. I might just keep this thing. I might just keep this thing
yeah.
on.
I'm
Hold
I'm
on.
here for the
I got the seance. You're here for the seance. So, all
yeah,
right, let's get spooky. Let's just do the lighting like this. How about that? Let's do
yeah. I
this
like
one.
that.
Sorry, I don't know why it keeps going on. Might be we do have a little bit of a storm going, so I don't know. This
I think
is
we're just getting atmospheric. Yeah, this is
I like it. All right, so just going back to it, right? I just wanted to make people aware because, like, the other thing too is like around 2021, I'm starting a new job. I'd left a job that I was kind of public facing a little bit for the job. I was starting to become public facing before the pandemic. So I was
mhm,
doing like Amazon Live days. I was doing a lot of cool stuff for them. And I always wondered how they would feel about like my hobby, my passion. And this is the
yeah,
mid 2010s. So I kept my reviews to Facebook groups. And some of you might remember the Bourboner Facebook group, which was
yeah,
one of the biggest in the country. And I was just doing 2-minute reviews in there, 2-minute reviews. Well, the pandemic comes. I'm laid off. Everybody's day drinking. I'm like, you know what? Let's just give this thing a shot. I'm going to try the writing thing. And the writing thing was a way for me to legitimize the hobby, right?
mhm,
Because if I say, hey, I'm a whiskey writer, all of a sudden it justifies having all the whiskey in a
yeah.
way. But not everybody has that luxury kind of thing. So again, just, trying to like remove the stigma of somebody with a wall of whiskey has a problem.
Yeah, and I find it interesting because we have the same parallel because I'm a teacher by day and I
There you
teach
go.
English. And my whole thing was I wanted to write and I was just looking for an outlet. So the whole get up was that I'm going to pour the whiskey, have the horror movie, and then find some kind of weird, interesting connection or parallel. But um, when I started off, I did think like I'm going to do Whiskey Morgue, but it's to push myself as a writer to get like picked up and write for. And like now it's actually coming full circle. It's happening, but then you get pulled in different directions. All of a sudden, like you're doing, we said like jumping on early Instagram lives, and you're forward facing. You're doing all these other things, and it just evolves. And to think like where you're at now with like having the podcast and having all these different outlets, and you're on every other video I see in the community that's
I'm
popping
sorry.
up. No, it's a good thing. You're a handsome guy, man. So
Oh,
yeah,
stop it. I
I think,
appreciate that.
but I do think that. Um, and this might be, what, you love hot takes, right? So I think like right now, here's a good hot take, is that if
Ooh,
we think about Svengoolie and we think about personality and the importance of it and how like we integrate all aspects of who we are, I think accounts, as whiskey kind of has leveled off a bit, I think there's a lot of accounts who are trying to find or at least allow their identity in a bit more. And I think like they're like, well, damn, I never had an angle. Like I got off, like we used to like pull out a bottle, and if it was a nice bottle, it would just gain traction because you didn't have to do anything. The bottle itself was like,
ooh.
whoa, you picked that
Oh
up?
my
Like,
gosh, you
yeah,
got it.
yeah. And even now, I've done it for fun. I've posted a bottle that I like, one that I'll pull out later for a special drink. But it's like 80 likes. Like people are just like, okay, cool. If anything, it's getting less traction. So I just found it interesting how like there is this like real pivot, and people are like, what is my personality, and how am I going to be this whiskey host or whiskey horror host, and channel my Svengoolie?
The thing I've noticed too is I don't want to discourage, and I hope nobody took that like, hey, you have the wall of whiskey behind you as discouragement, because no, by no means is what I'm doing the right thing, right? For years, you've known me for years.
Yeah,
I I wasn't on every other video. I wasn't on Bourbon Pursuit. I wasn't
yeah,
on, right? I think the main thing is to like maintain relationships. Overall, be nice. I have hot takes, but I think what a lot of people will find is that my hot takes are very much generalities,
hmm,
right? Like I don't attack brands, I don't attack people. They're very much trends that I see that are happening in the marketplace. And over time, those hot takes and being in the chat room on the Bourbon Pursuit Roundtable, Kenny, by the way, is the Svengoolie. I feel like Kenny could be a great Svengoolie.
Yeah, yeah,
He's got the dry sense of humor. He's got some funny jokes. That's the guy that I feel like could pull it off. But anyways, going back, he sees the hot takes after, and I was just persistent, jokingly like, "Hey, I'd love to be on the roundtable, love to be on the roundtable." And he was like, "Well, hey, how about an episode?" And
yeah.
and the pitch was, "Hey, sneaker collecting is a lot like whiskey collecting, and I've seen the behaviors of both."
Hmm.
And it was very relevant when we recorded that. I want to say it was like early 23 or 24.
Yeah.
Fast forward, and then I get another episode, and then I get the roundtable, and it's been a very good few weeks. My astrologer wants to take credit because apparently in 26, I'm supposed to be taking advantage of this
This is your
in the
year.
first
You're
quarter.
flourishing.
Well, I don't know how long it lasts. That's the other thing. I gotta see when the floor falls out of all this. But I finally got on your podcast, so here I am. But again, I think so. Going back to like the community and everybody trying to find their voice, right? I think also it's very important that I don't think your voice is attacking other creators. I don't think your voice, very few people wear smarmy or snarky very well. Not everybody
Yeah.
can pull that off. And I get it, right? And there's a lot of like, hey, you don't follow me, or like I'll go to a fest and people's like, oh man, I've been trying to follow you for 3 months. I'm like, hey, I'm sorry. Like,
Yeah.
like don't be offended too. Like get in each other's comments and keep this thing going because at the end of the day, we are the community. So
Yeah.
whether you have 500 followers, 5,000 followers, 50,000 followers,
Yeah.
you're an important part of what's going on, right? And the other thing I'll say this, and I am very long-winded, so I apologize, guys,
No, I
is
get it.
that for the grill company, I get to travel a lot. And one of the things I told myself after the pandemic was, well, man, I'm going to go out and meet people that I know from the internet because I met so many great people in the internet. I'm gonna go meet them and have parking lot pours in Vegas. Shout out to
Yeah.
my guys KC and Garrett out there, Garrett Grant. You meet them, you have these awesome parking lot pours, and all of a sudden you unlock. It's like I regionally unlocked the Vegas Whiskey Boys, right? Like I
Yeah.
regionally unlocked them, and all of a
Yeah.
sudden I got like 10 new guys that I get to interact with, and they get to interact with me. And I don't know if Instagram did this at the time where it was like regional, very, very
Hmm.
regional. Like I wouldn't see people from New York
Oh,
because
interesting.
well, it was very interesting to me because like even though I was friends with David and Frank, who are based out of New York and New Jersey, I I'm like, there's nobody else in the New York whiskey scene
Yeah.
that's like us. Like I found it hard to believe versus like Chicago, we have a wealth of, from Lynn Whiskey Gal, Chris Blattner, Oliva Dram Daddy, just your average wine guy, Bourbon Bear, Eros. Like
Chicago's hot. Yeah.
Chicago's hot. It's got so I'm like, there's so many awesome Chicago accounts, Whiskey with Max, so many great Chicago accounts. How is there not another whiskey account in Minneapolis? Three or four of them. How is there
Yeah.
not like one in the Quad Cities? All we got is Joe from Iowa. So it's like, I want whiskey to grow and I want everybody to participate. And you know what? Just keep at it. That's all I can say is keep at it.
One question we have to figure out though is anyone of those group of Chicago whiskey influencers, is anyone from Berwyn?
Nobody, or at least I haven't met them yet. I would love
Okay.
to meet, John
So
Shav
I bring it up
Jones
because
or
if you remember, Svengoolie always took shots at Berwyn for whatever reason. And I don't
that's right.
know. I'm not from Chicago, but is that like common, like to poke fun, or was that just his shtick?
He gave that origin story at one point, but it was just random as heck. It was just
And then he
random. They
just ran
created
with it.
sound, and I don't know if they had the soundbite pre-made or not. But yeah, there's
Yeah.
nothing wrong with Berwyn. There's actually a Berwyn chicken shop now, so that you
Okay.
can you can get fried chicken sandwiches at the Berwyn chicken shop. Which I still shame on me. I still got to get out there.
All right. So before we go into the next question, I need a pour, man. I just realized we jumped into
Yes.
chatting. So I'm gonna pour something out while we chat. To commemorate all the success, I'm going with this Bardstown Bourbon
Ooh,
Pursuit collab. And I went back and listened to your episode yesterday, the not the recent one, the 2024, the parallels
sneakerhead.
between sneaker. Yeah. And I mean, it's awesome. And we'll touch on that a bit too. But yeah, it was fun revisiting. I forgot how great that conversation was and looking how things aged a bit in the last couple years.
I will tell you, if you listen to the most recent one, I kind of wanted to like give an update, a 2 year update, but Kenny was like, no, no,
Yeah.
no, let's just get into the hot takes.
Yeah.
So while you pour that, I mean, maybe I'll do my Pursuit triple mash, but I also have Rise of the Robots from
Oh,
Filmland Spirits.
I should have yanked that one out too. We're talking horror, we're talking film.
I might start with this one first,
Okay.
just because just because it's a little bit lighter to start with. I'm in my rye era. Also, I do have Appalachian Barrel Company, and I have the new preservation pot still over here. So
We got some selection.
yeah, we got some
I've been seeing the
selection.
preservation online quite a bit lately.
Oh goodness, they sent me the 10-year. I am actually going to drive out to the distillery and buy it. That's how good this sample was. Just unbelievable. And
By the way, Matt's not joking. He's leaving like at 2 a.m. this morning.
in 6 hours, in
Yeah,
six
he's leaving.
hours, I'm going to. I gotta go get the rental car, and then I'm going to sleep for 5 hours, and then I'm on my way. So I'm actually going to be doing a pick at pursuit. So
Look at this, full circle.
it is, and gosh, I was behind. I was one of the first like guys to like Patreon with them, and that's the other
Yeah.
thing too is like the people you support today, you don't know who they'll be in 10 years,
Hmm.
right? Like when I was supporting the Bourbon Pursuit podcast, I had no idea they had plans to become NDPs or blenders or anything like that.
Yeah.
I just knew I vibed with them. I had a palate, and very much like at the time because there wasn't a lot of reviewers. I would try and find somebody who had a palate like mine, and that namely was Ryan. Ryan Cecil has a very similar palate to me.
Yeah.
And then when it comes to like Blake from Bourboner, back when he
Hmm.
did reviews or when he was writing his blog at the time, which you guys might know him now as Sealbox.
Hmm.
A lot of people don't know that Blake from Sealbox, Blake from Bourboner is the guy that came up with Poor Man's Pappy. Like that.
Yeah.
It is crazy to me how like I was explaining this to someone. It's like every 3 to 4 years, it changes over. Is
Yeah.
that new people come in? Some people, they get out of the category for whatever reason, they get out of the hobby. But that's the most important thing is that we have new people coming in, and not necessarily that we finger wag and say, hey, this is how it used to be. Because
Yeah.
I've gone from Reddit and the Facebook groups to Twitter to the cesspool that was Twitter, now
Yeah.
X. And then that went into Instagram. They tried to go to TikTok. Now everybody's back to Instagram because TikTok's just not supporting it at all or not putting up with any of the alcohol stuff.
Yeah.
So and I've seen it each time that, the all the people on Reddit were like, well, Twitter's just a bunch of snarky hot takes and all that stuff. And,
Yeah.
those jerks. And then all the Twitter people were like, well, Instagram's just a bunch of pictures. And then Instagram was like, well, TikTok's just a whole bunch of people dancing with empty bottles. Like everybody's always got a problem.
Yeah.
So
But you know what? I think you make a great point that being this far into it, like, and I will say, like, I didn't jump online until I guess 2020, October 2020, but was into whiskey beforehand. But a lot of people on the come up, like I remember Frank and I having conversations, and I'm gonna shout out B NAFTA. It was our as our alliance early in the game was B NAFTA. But I remember having a couple conversations, and Frank would ask me like, how are things going? Where are you at? What do you see yourself doing next? And we'd kind of like check in, and to see friends of mine all evolve, and whether it's the Pursuit guys or Frank, like it's so rewarding to see that because you realize like, you can get caught up in all the small stuff, right? I really try to avoid all that. But you really got to champion each other because if you're in here 5, 6, 7, 8 years deep, like yeah, there's like a bunch of us who've been doing this for a long time and championing the category and building a strong community. So and that's what it all comes down to. So I think it's like this nice celebration of where everyone's headed.
and I've had a nice group of people that have pulled me back in because the last 2 years, I'll admit, like I kind of pulled back. Once Malt Review went down and
Hmm.
I had that sneaker thing, I was like, you know what? I've got enough whiskey. I don't need to beg brains for bottles. I'll just buy what I like. I'll review what I like.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, like, shout out to John Oliva. Again, Dram Daddy, he holds these Christmas parties. And then the Christmas parties got me like back into the community. And then like Chris Blattner was so welcoming and introduced me to brands. And then now Whiskey She Sips, she's doing a good job of like, hey, Matt's been around a long time. You might not know who the
Yeah.
hell he is. You know what I mean? And people have like welcomed me back. And I think like I hate to say it, like I'm back more than I ever was before in a
Yeah.
way. And shout out to Frank and David who like always like they kept writing and they kept advocating for me. And that's the thing is like you'll have people that advocate for you in rooms. And
Yeah.
that's like the Dream Spirits weekend. Prav reaches out And he goes, "Oh, I did have your phone number." And we had texted back in like 2017
Wow.
was like the last time that we texted or something like that. So,
Mm.
it's a great network of people. And the other thing that I always love is it's like when I joined the Bourbon Crusaders. I joined the Bourbon Crusaders, and what the other thing is like I love telling people I have a bourbon charity that has raised over 6 to 8 million. It's not my charity, I should say. I'm a member of a
Yeah.
charity that's raised this much money, and people are like, "Wait, whiskey people can do that?" Yeah, we can do that.
Yeah.
And there's a ton of
Yeah.
great whiskey charities. Again, anything that elevates the category, right? So I think that's the only thing like I would encourage people to do is whatever you're doing, be true to yourself, but elevate elevate the community, right? Like it's
Yeah.
not about like attacking each other and hey, you got this bottle, I should get this bottle. It's just do your own thing, have fun with it. And I think you'll enjoy the hobby more.
Yeah. Well, the one thing I've told other people too, and like coming up in whiskey and say they're new to the category and we chat because we've been there, like you see, oh, so and so gets a bottle and they get a bottle. And I always think, you know what? You don't know like the conversations that were had or the connections. And so if someone got a bottle, but they had a friend who introduced them and they flew out and took the time even to go out and visit and hang out. Like you don't know those connections. So you can't on the outside just scrolling be like, why did so and so get this and I didn't get this, right? It's like
Yeah.
you'll forever, it's just like it can be a very toxic mindset even just for yourself. But I think like just know that like it all stems from the biggest thing is it stems from genuine connections. And that's what I'll say through and through. Some of the most interesting things I've done, the best bottles I've ever gotten, whether it was the store I'm loyal to or friends that I've made along the way, that's where it comes from. So I think like if you put that first and foremost, everything else kind of falls into place and you don't have to worry about all that small stuff or keep tally of what others are doing.
And I've seen it time and time again. I didn't, and, I saw it in the Twitterverse and I've seen it in the Facebook verse. What happens is if you badmouth somebody to the brand that sent them something, and then it gets out, it just makes you
Yeah.
both toxic and
Yeah.
just it's not worth my time, right? Like
Yeah.
I'm not like if you think about it from like the distillery's point of view, like the media person, right? The
Yeah.
media person, whether it's a small distillery or a big distillery, and all of a sudden you get 5 DMs saying so and so shouldn't have got it. And then you're like,
Yeah.
well, I ain't sending you anything. I'm not sending
Yeah.
any of you five anything. And the next person, and maybe I don't want to deal with that person anymore, right? So it's like you don't win doing stuff like that.
Yeah. And you see it in the horror community too. We talk about parallels with like sneakers and I don't know, maybe you can speak to that a bit too, but I've seen in like in the horror community as well in terms of like opportunities or even just questioning like the content that's put out that people are putting out. So like even I always say like with whiskey or horror, my angle is like if you see it on my page, I enjoy it.
Mhm.
I don't like bashing brands. I don't like bashing filmmakers because I think even if that film didn't do so well, that whiskey, like someone put a lot of time and money into that. So I'd rather just say nothing than try to like capitalize on it
Yeah.
for some sound bites or clickbait. So
Well, and my thing is, I would love like to have a one-on-one conversation with that person, and like, I will tell them like this is why people say I'm honest is because face to face, I will tell you if I didn't like something.
yeah.
I can't muster the passion to edit a video on something I don't like.
Before we talk some shoes, I think a good way to kind of cap off this is that so remember Svengoolie had like if he had a bad joke, the rubber chickens were thrown at him.
Yes, I got a great one.
So
Okay.
if it, okay, so yeah, so in terms of like whiskey, or you could just do a general bad joke, but is there like a bad joke in terms of like things trending that you think deserves the rubber chicken?
Ooh, things that deserve the rubber chicken. Hazmat whiskey. Hazmat whiskey deserves the rubber chicken. That's one. I'm famously against hazmats. Buff turkey and buff turkey rumors deserve the rubber chicken. I had that. Things that deserve the rubber chicken. People that drink White Claw in the summer. That's what 80 proof whiskey is for. That's what, you get yourself some American whiskey from Michter's or the Sour Mash, put it on ice. Oh
Yeah,
my goodness. It's
I
so
know.
good. Like
Yeah.
when I was coming up, I still remember I had a Jim Beam Black and my for my work, they allowed me to have one, right? Because and this is part of the reason I got into whiskey. You guys will like this. So, I famously was like going to Steak and Shake and like these really cheap joints like late at night because I would always roll into town late and start my day early.
Hmm.
And my boss is like, "What are you doing buying dinner at Steak and Shake?" I go, "Well, blah 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 blah." He's like, "You're away from your family. Go have a nice dinner. you can expense a beer or two.
Mm.
So I took that as a whiskey or two because
Yeah.
the two beers would go by really quick and give me a gut. So
Yeah.
I was like, I'll have the one whiskey, I'll have a Jim Beam Black, I'll have a Knob Creek, because usually that's what most hotels or like most
Yeah.
of your restaurants down here have. And you let that ice melt and you start to see like, oh my gosh, like the waviness of it. You start to get a little bit more of the caramel, and you understand why blenders are, the blenders are down that low.
Yeah.
They're down in the 40s and 50s sometimes when they're testing and looking for imperfections and things like that. And it becomes a beautiful, it's almost like iced tea at that point.
Yeah.
And people don't understand that. I really reject this idea that everything has to be in barrel proof form for you to properly judge it, because there's a lot of whiskeys that the water just opens everything up
Oh
and
yeah.
does so much to it, right? Like
Yeah.
definitely think water is part of the equation.
Um, what's funny was like I wrote on here of like if I had a rubber chicken, it was the same thing because I know hazmat, we kind of share that. Like it's not to say I haven't had any hazmats that I've enjoyed, but it's funny you mentioned like the water and opening it up because recently I was just like, you know what? Like I watch movies, right? And to be honest, as much as I curate the pour and the scene, like that's staged. Like I'm not drinking when I'm pouring that. Like that's like,
Right.
um, for the gram. But when I'm enjoying a drink in a movie, lately I was like, I want to sip on something a bit more. And I went back to a big ice cube and some of my favorite like baseline whiskeys. And I was like, that's what lured me in. Like that citrus and vanilla, like, but like true vanilla, like not like I'm pulling that out of like this, 140
A hint of it.
proof. Yeah. But like it's true. It's a different drink, right? And that's acceptable as well. So I like coming back to that. And it kind of goes hand in hand with like the White Claw. It's like the summer is like that highball, right? That's why the highball is like so popular. Just throw a bunch of ice or big old ice cube, put a whiskey in there, let it melt and do its thing. And yeah, it kind of becomes this like iced tea drink, and it's really, really nice.
Yep. No, I agree with you. And yeah, the other thing too is, I guess like, are you a father as well?
Yeah, yeah. So I
Okay.
have a
So
4-year-old. Yeah.
yeah, there was a point where I was like, wait a minute. If there was an emergency right now, I can't drive my kid to the hospital.
Yes. That becomes a thing with your choice of drinks.
So that's why it became one pour a night, and then it become like
Yeah.
maybe once or twice a week, right? Like I don't necessarily do the dry January or sober October, but I've always been about like moderation, right? Like
Same.
the idea that I got to have three different hazmats at night so that I could taste the difference is totally ludicrous, right?
Yeah.
Fred Minnick talks about like when he had, when he was dealing with PTSD, or, he would press a potato chip and, taste all the salt and taste all the seasonings on it. And that's how you build your palate, guys.
Yeah.
Not by slamming back, oh, look, I got this 120. And that's the other thing. Like a lot of times this becomes like a badge of honor. And I've seen too many barrel picks where it's like, well, you know what? It's not going to sell if it's not 120 plus. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
and proof has almost gotten more important than age, because I've seen
Yeah.
people like, they're like, oh, we'll take the 125 8-year versus like a 10-year-old that's 118 or 114 or something like that, which I think is unfortunate.
So what's interesting is I was at my store the other day and they had a few different Four Roses picks, single barrels. And I mean, usually they're a little bit lower in proof. But I wanted to pick the lowest proof. And that's been my jam lately because I feel like Michter's does it really well, where like you can have, if you are gonna go there with like a barrel proof, and I know it can depend on what they put into the bottle, sorry, what they put into the barrel and what proof they put it at. But I want a lower proof. And then even more recently, I picked up a Buffalo Trace pick, which I haven't done in
Ooh,
years. And this thing is amazing. Like, and I picked it up. I know the store, and like we're good friends. Um, and shout out Supermarket Liquors and Wine in Niagara Falls. But they like, you know, they're like, you got to try this. You got to try this Buffalo Trace pick. And sure enough, I was like, wow, like there's a lot of flavor here. And what's it, 46% or whatever it is. And I'm like, yeah, you don't need the hazmat. You don't need super high proof. And at one point I was kind of intrigued. I kind of got roped up into it too. But lately I'm go looking for like if you put even like it is barrel proof, like I said, you line up some picks. I'm like, I'm picking the lowest proof in there because I'm like, I want to see like those flavors condensed at a lower proof. That just intrigues me more.
and you should always start like when we do flights, right? You always start low to high. You always start
Mm.
low to high. I did one time I did this tasting and I was doing it with one of the, shout out to Kevin Coleman, one of the barbecue Kings here out of Chicago, and we did a tasting, and it was 14 side by sides. So, 14 side by sides, but we do little
Yeah.
sippy cups. We do these little
Yeah.
sippy cups, these little shooters. And I'm telling you, these guys absolutely loved it because there's not everybody in the room is going to be a whiskey nerd or a whiskey
Yeah.
enthusiast. And you can't scare people off because people hear whiskey and the 80 proof stuff is scary to them.
Yeah.
Some of these people are coming from spirits that are, 40 proof and way lower.
Before I entered
But
whiskey, I for years up until like my 20s and my mid 20s, I thought the highest you can get is 80 proof. Like I thought that was like the cap. And then you heard about these other things, or you'd hear about Ray and Nephew rum, and and it was like overproofed rum, and I was like, oh, but this stuff exists, but it's really hard to come by. Like that was like the lore of that kind of stuff. But then getting in the whiskey world, so like yeah, I've actually enjoyed. My neighbor does a rib fest every year. And Ryan listens to this sometimes. Shout out Ryan does an amazing Rib Fest trophy,
nice.
everything. Matt, I'm gonna fly
Love
you in,
that.
and you're gonna do some grilling. But
I'll do the
uh,
judging. I'll do the judging.
because I have so many bottles now, I do a open bar when they come there, and I create a lineup, and I do like a tasting, and I curate the whole thing. And it's interesting, kind of coming back again to the basics and like people being introduced to it and how they approach. Like someone saw, I think it was like Middle West that I had, and it was like 46% or whatever. Like, ooh, like and in my mind, that's like my entry pour. Like that's where like
Right.
we're gonna like get the night started and have a light pour, and someone else is like, "Yo, I'm going hard tonight because this is over 80 proof."
We were having a talk about, there was one pick we were doing, and the debate came down, you get down to a pick, and sometimes the two are so close in terms of like enjoyability, but
Hmm.
the taste profiles are different.
Yeah.
And what happened is, we said, hey, one of these you're going to pull out at the end of the night and say, hey guys, you got to try this because it's so different.
Hmm.
And then the other one you're going to want to sit with all night. And it's going to be the one that you have 2 or 3 drams from and you sit with. And I come more from that era, I guess,
Yeah.
because I know and I get it when we're with our friends, we want to try everything. So we have a little bit of everything, and that's the bottle share. And I love bottle shares. I think that's one of the best things about a community is a bottle share, right?
Mhm.
However, when you're just sitting with 2 or 3 friends and you're all pouring from maybe 2 or 3 different bottles, and you can go back and be like, you know what, that's what I like, and I'm gonna sit there.
Yeah.
That's to me what whiskey is about. Whiskey, you find what you like and what's your profile.
That's exactly it.
Yeah.
If we're talking shoes for a second,
Let's go.
and we're talking about profile shoes. Listen, I'm not a huge like I was never like a Nike shoe collector. I was at Jason because my cousin was growing up.
Yeah.
So much so that I felt left out and got the what was the model where it had like air across the side?
Oh, that's the
Was it
Nike Air More Up Tempo worn by Scottie Pippen in
yeah,
1996,
Tibbet. Okay,
97.
yeah. So I got a pair of those because there was FOMO. Like I was like I need to get into this. But being older, like Air Max 90s, like all black Air Max 90s, I
Oh,
always have a pair. Like that's
nice.
I go to now. The problem is, um, it's weak, right? We got it's Air Max week, right? And I started digging around before we had this conversation, and this can be really dangerous because I saw like a spiderweb version.
Hmm.
Now I don't know. I'm you have the spiderweb version?
I don't have the spiderweb version. There's a lot. So Nike has done a lot of like Halloween releases. I think recently though, because of supply chain issues, some of these come out after Halloween.
Okay.
I do have this Presto right here with the spiders.
Wow.
Oh, and actually, hold on. I'm gonna light these up for a second, and then let's see if this works. Let's see if Matt can pull it off. Are they glowing?
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
it's
they're
glowing a
they're,
bit.
they're kind of
Okay.
glowing. They're
That's
kind of glowing a
sweet.
little bit. Got to charge them up a little bit. And then the other ones I got from the basketball. Unfortunately, my John Morants are in the house, and those are the zombie ones. But Kevin Durant, his nickname is the Slim Reaper. They put this
Oh
skeletal
man.
hand on these with the glow in the dark bottom. So let's charge these up. 1, 2, 3. Let's see how this goes. Let's see.
Oh wow, that's bright.
uh,
If you're not
Nike has
watching the
fun.
video version, hit pause and then switch over to video because it
Yeah,
looks
please switch to the video version. Do you do the video on Spotify, by the way?
no, but I saw that like being more of a thing now, and I need to get on it. Like I always
I got
just
to
did
tell you,
YouTube.
the last 2 years, we have been one of the top 20% video podcasts. And it's really like, even though we have a very small niche following, the fact that we are a video, like top 20% Spotify video podcast,
Wow.
our partners have really enjoyed that. Our partners have really, really liked that.
That's awesome. No, I need to look into that because I was just watching one the other day and I don't know why it's taking me so long, but I watched it on Spotify in video format and was like, wait, like, why am I not doing this? I'm doing all the work anyway. I'm editing the video. It's there.
Right.
I already have everything being fed out through Podbean to whatever it is, right? So I need to get on it. So
No,
Matt,
you got to do it.
some learning here too. This is great. The shoe releases are epic. Is there any other ones you have in your collection or any behind you
My
that are
brother
like,
has my brother has the Air Max 97, which was the slime. And,
yeah,
and that's like where my horror, like, so Halloween is my favorite holiday. I had the Jack Skellington. I love Jack Skellington. I used to have the 13 footer. He broke. But the best thing about Jack Skellington is you can leave him up through Christmas, because of the
yes,
Nightmare Before Christmas. So
yeah.
that was the main reason that I got him. But Halloween's my favorite, and the one thing I love about it is I love the whimsical. I love the funny. I love the, like, I
Mhm.
don't necessarily like the over the top, like not a scary movie type movies, but I love the ones that are maybe a touch campy, but not totally campy. There's just like a bit of whimsical fun. I love the whimsy of Halloween. I love the whimsy of horror. I love that horror can like make us suspend our disbelief for a little bit and be like, man, life does suck, but it could be funny too. You know what
Yeah.
I mean? That's what I love about Halloween. I love that about certain horror movies as well.
Is there a movie that kind of stands out to you? Not necessarily like a favorite, but like the one that kind of encompasses that like
Oh my gosh.
whimsical element.
Okay, so like with Svengoolie, right? Like some of the gosh, the guy with the Day of the Dead, or with Bruce Campbell. What's Bruce Campbell's movie?
Evil Dead.
Oh,
Evil
why
Dead.
am
Yeah,
Evil
yeah,
Dead, Evil
yeah,
Dead.
yeah,
I love that stuff. I
yeah.
absolutely love that stuff. You know what I mean?
That
You
was
know
one
he's
of the
gonna come
first
out at the end.
VHS I found in my parents' basement. Like kind of my intro to horror. It's funny, like I always talk about my parents weren't really into horror, but for some reason there was like unreturned videos in the basis like they rented for sure, like should have been returned to Blockbuster. But yeah, Evil Dead was a good one because I was scared, but it felt like a good intro because it was campy and comical, and you're like, okay, I'm really scared right now because that woman in the cellar is horrifying,
Yeah.
but look at him like fight his own hand and like so yeah, I think that's a great one
Yeah.
to
I think another one too, Rob Zombie's films. Like Rob Zombie's films, they take it because they're campy, but they're hyper realistic at the same time. So
Mhm.
like it's a Rob Zombie film. It's like very like hyper stylized, and but it's scary at the same time because it's so real feeling, and so like hyperbolic and coming at you. But at the same time you can like be like, okay, well, but it isn't real because it's so crazy and it's so over the top. So
Yeah.
the Rob Zombie movies, I thought, those pull me back into the horror genre a little bit. Those are like the mid 2000s, right?
Yeah. That's how I feel about like, in behind me, like Terrifier. I don't know if you've watched any of the Terrifier movies, but Art the Clown, I feel like is and this will be a good segue, is like the equivalent to Freddy Krueger. So you think about Freddy
Yes.
Krueger's lore, horrifying. Like this guy basically attacked children and like that's where we start off with, right? And then it became that he was like a household name and he was on tea towels and he was like figurines and he became comical and you were waiting for like the punchline in every movie and like Art the Clown has become that, but like it's true, like it's so over the top and ridiculous sometimes, but you're like, this is a break from the horrors of like the real world. Like people will be like, oh, that's like a horror movie. I'm like, no, like when I scroll on Instagram and you see what's
Right.
going on in the world, like that is horrifying. This is a pleasant break from that. So
Yeah, and it made me think about so I was talking to a good friend today. Really good friend. I used to do tastings for his offensive line. Um he'll know who I'm talking about.
yeah,
He coaches for another NFL team right now. And he's always given me like words of encouragement the past few years, like you're crushing it, you're awesome. And we were speaking this morning, especially like after the Bruisel video dropped. And
yeah,
and he was so excited for me. And he goes, you need a YouTube channel. It's about the energy that you have. And it's funny because like I'm known for like these sassy hot takes, but if you meet me in person, like it's about the energy and like us being together and let's like us having a good time. So I
yeah.
still don't know. I still don't know what my energy is necessarily. Am I the sassy hot take, Freddy Krueger, the Terrifier type? right? Because even you're like, oh no, like he's coming after us. Like, no, I just speak in generalities.
But buff turkey, really quickly, I need to mention this.
Yes. Yes.
So
Let me
I've never
clarify.
had buff turkey. I'm on the outside again, but I see it. Like, you know what I mean? I'm there. I'm in the community. I see it online. Is there a shoe
Oh,
that can play off of like this like too loose of a lore of like buff turkey? Because you know, you go to someone like you said, you've mentioned this in on Bourbon Pursuit that there's too much of like a wink, wink, nudge, nudge. Like we just heard that it might be something. Is there like a shoe that was released that there's like maybe like dupes of or different versions of that kind of get the same treatment?
oh goodness. Might get lambasted on this, but I think the problem is a lot of because they've been so limited for so long, and even now they're still hard to get. When people pay secondary or buy secondary for Kobe's
Hmm.
or Travis Scott shoes, because there's been a lot of like so like the main place that people go, they go to GOAT or they go to StockX, and even
Yeah.
those places have been proven to like be passing fakes by, and even eBay when they had their verification process, right? Like I had a friend, the Mambasitas, the black and white Kobe's, he
Yeah.
got them, so he got them on eBay, and they passed the eBay verification test. But then, lost his job. He wanted to move on, hey, I'm gonna sell these, right? And he
Yeah.
could actually sell them on StockX for more than he paid on eBay for them. So he
Hmm.
was like, this is a win-win.
Yeah.
Sends it to StockX, and StockX says it doesn't pass their verification, and it gets kicked back, and he gets charged the five. I don't know if they charge 5% or 15% or whatever, if for being fake.
Wow.
So it's funny how like one passed one's verification and it didn't pass the other one. And that's kind of like the buff turkey thing to me is like I'm not saying that there aren't great buff turkeys, but supposedly there were 16,000 barrels of this stuff.
Yeah.
And I'm not doubting that there are some good ones, but like we did a tasting with Dram Daddy and Straight Lines of Bourbon, and we only had one at the top, which was a Buckner's, and then all the others like they fell behind Single Rickhouse, they fell
Wow.
behind Generations, they fell behind the 8 year, and it was
Yeah.
like wow, I bought Predictum. I bought Predictum or Predictus or whatever it was for
Yeah.
150. It dropped down. I'm like, okay, it's $10 a year. I could stomach 150. And I was just like, it didn't do it for me. I hate to talk negative about it, but that one
Yeah.
was a letdown after like the ethos. So that's why I'm a little down on it.
Hmm.
And also I think the other thing too is like for the community, right? So this is something that I used to say back in the day. I will never judge your collection based on whether or not you have Pappy. I
Hmm.
will never judge your shoe collection based on whether or not you have a Jordan 11 or a Kobe, right? So like this idea that like we have to go chase a buff turkey or we're not a real collector.
Yeah.
That one I didn't like either. Some people are like, are you even in the game if you're not getting a buff turkey?
Yeah.
Like, no, because and what are the new myths? The new myths are I have 11-year bookers. The new myths are I have Buffalo Trace
Yeah.
Smash Bill #2 that you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
okay, great, but this is my thing. If you cannot say it, if you have an NDA where you cannot say it,
Yeah.
then you should not say it.
Yeah.
And that's what I don't like is this hint, this wink, wink, nudge, nudge. And yeah, there's some guys that are like, I spent the weekend with Prov and, like a Drew at Circle City. And there are guys that are very reputable and you trust that they're saying what they're saying where it comes from.
Yeah.
But on the other hand, there's a lot of other ones where it's just like, the stuff showed up on a truck and, you bought it from a lot and yada,
Yeah.
yada.
Or maybe there was one true story and others like, well, we can ride with that too. Like, you know, if like yeah, like you said, like I've recently seen like I guess with Dream Spirits there, the Booker's 11 that dropped. And even I was like, oh wow,
Right.
like what? Like I kind of want that, right? And but I feel like okay, maybe with Prob, but like I would trust that it's true. But then how many others are gonna be like, well, guess what? I also might have wink wink nudge nudge got the like a Booker's 11 barrel. You know what I mean? So then it just like snowballs from
Well,
there. But
I will say
yeah,
because I originally was like a little, I didn't realize like back in the day, this might even go as far back as 2007, because I came up thinking that all bookers were selected by the committee. And
yeah,
it's actually not true. All bookers, actually, I just sent this to a friend. Shout out to Levi at Southern Spirits, by the way. Uh, for those of you that don't know, back in the day, here we go. Bookers and Bakers come off at 125 proof. Knob comes off at 130. And Jim
Wow.
Beam White and Black comes off at 135. Booker's and Baker's have no water added and go into the barrel at 125. Knob Creek and Jim have water added so they can go into the barrel at 125. OGD Basil Hayden comes off at 127, gets diluted to 125 for entry. Plus, Knob Creek and Booker's have a certain wood grain selection. So it is totally plausible that
Wow.
you have barrels out there that were earmarked to be Booker's or were earmarked to be Knob Creek.
Ah, okay.
It is totally possible. So
Yeah.
I will say like that's something that's real that could be out there. If somebody says like, hey, I have a Knob Creek or I
Okay.
have a Booker's barrel. That's something that could kind of be verified. Again, depends on the NDA.
Yeah. Yeah. The markers are there, but yeah, again, it depends if they could say anything. But I think like, what it comes back to what we said in the beginning is that, and you've mentioned before, you want it to be exclusive but obtainable as well. And I feel like a lot of us, like you mentioned judging on the collection, like Pappy, sometimes you see a wall of someone who has it, and I almost check out. I'm like, you're in a different,
Hmm.
like you have a wall of Pappy, you have every BTAC that ever existed through years. And I'm like, I have like, listen, this one here was the one I won in a raffle.
Awesome.
And I drank it and I enjoyed it and that was it. But that was my like, and I've been in tastings and I've got to have other BTAC stuff, but in terms of like my bottles, like that's it. Because I've never paid secondary for anything. I've just kind of been like cross my fingers or like through genuine connection
All right.
and whatnot. But
Well, and I want to piggyback off that though. If you
yeah.
look behind me, so a lot of these sneakers, everybody assumes that these are like very rare and very collectible. They are and they aren't. They're all golf sneakers.
Mhm.
Almost all of them, 90% of these, aside from the two that I showed you, the Presto and the KD, these are all golf sneakers, which are useless if you're not on a golf course.
Yeah.
But a lot of people see the collection and they assume that this is like super rare. It would be the same thing if somebody's collection was all Jordan
Yeah.
11s, because that's the Pappy Van Winkle of sneaker
Yes.
collecting was, hey, it comes out once a year. Everybody wants a Jordan 11 in the springtime. It comes out in a low top. So that's your William LaRue Weller. That's your Weller expressions right there. You don't need that to verify like that you're a legitimate collector or anything like that, in my opinion.
Yeah.
So, to me, somebody, I judge somebody by like the diversity of what they have. In sneakers, we have a big thing. A lot of people, if you wear them, it's a badge of honor. There's a subset
Yeah.
of it, and it's the same thing in whiskey where there's a badge of honor when stuff is open, like that William Llewellyn that's behind you.
Yeah.
Drink it when nothing's promised tomorrow,
Yeah.
nothing at all. And that's something that's changed my life. I'll give you guys a personal story here, actually. Like 2 years ago, 3 years ago, I was not feeling good. Something was up.
Yeah.
Went to the doctor, blood tests are fine. Went to the doctor, guys of my age, he did the test. You know what I'm talking about. Rubber
Classic. You
glove.
fall in the cohort. Yeah. Yeah.
Yep. He says it's fine. Year goes by. Work gets busy. 2 years go by. I'm like, Doc, there's something off. There's something off. I go under, they get the camera, three polyps, one cancerous. And I feel amazing right now. I feel amazing
Yeah.
this last year. And you know what I mean? So one, be your own advocate, fellas. Be your own
Yeah.
advocate. If something doesn't feel right, keep pushing that doctor, keep pushing. And I love my doctor, by the way, because the reason I love this doctor, you guys will like this. I first meet this doctor. I hadn't had a general practitioner in like a decade, right? And
Yeah.
by no means, don't take this as like medical advice, but this is how. So I meet the guy, very nice man. He goes, "You smoke?" I go, "Not anymore."
Yeah.
He goes, "How often?" I go, "Well, I have a cigar every once in a while." He goes,
Yeah.
"Good, good, good. No cigarettes. Cigar is good. Do you drink?" I go, "Every once in a while." He goes, "What do you drink?" I go, "Whiskey." He goes, "Good, good, good. No beer. How much whiskey?" I go, "Ounce a week." Right?
Yeah.
He goes, "That's fine." He goes, "That's fine." He's like, "No beer. You'll get a belly." I was like, "This is my kind of doctor.
Yeah.
This is my kind." So I'll give him that credit. I will give
Yeah.
him that credit.
Advocating for yourself is huge. So I mean, I didn't expect that to come up in the conversation, but it's true and super important. All right. So before we wrap up, um, I did a bit of homework in terms of
Uh-oh.
horror crossover with Nike.
Ooh.
One of the rarest Nike shoes to exist. Now you can correct me if I'm wrong. This is me just diddling on the internet.
I may
The
or may
Fred
not know this.
the Freddy Krueger SB Dunks.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So do you know the history on this shoe?
I actually don't know that I cannot eloquently dictate the history of it, but yes, I am aware of the Freddy Krueger dunks.
Okay, so I went online and just for in terms of like pricing. Now I think this might be kind of like out of range, but it supposedly I saw one pair going for 66,000.
I think
Um,
there was one on Goat that went for 45.
wow. Okay, so it's not far off. It's not.
No,
So it's up
it's
there.
not far off. It's not far off.
So
It's a lot of times when Nike does these, like they do forecasting, but they also purposely sometimes, and not purposely, but it's like, okay, well, how popular could a Freddy Krueger dunk be, right? And this is this is where like producing shoes is a lot like producing whiskey, right? If you produce too much of it, it loses its value, loses its meaning. And this is where I think whiskey, this here's a semi hot take comparison that I didn't get out on Bourbon Pursuit.
okay.
The secondary market is necessary in both. And the reason is because at some point you will sit down and be like, well, I've got these Pebble Beach Jordan 11s that are made out of denim, two types of denim. Yeah, they are worth like $500.
Yeah.
And people are like, oh my gosh, right? But I wore them and I wear them and that's all. But I get to say that, right? And it's the same thing with like a bottle of whiskey. When you sit down with a bottle of whiskey and you say, well, this thing, I paid 100, but it's going for 200. But that
Yeah.
doesn't exist anymore because they've priced everything at secondary. So now you sit down with the bottle and you're like, well, I paid $250 for this. And everybody's like, well, you're a sucker.
Yeah, Trump.
Right, exactly, right? Versus like it, a lot of my media partners disagree with this, but I think when there is a little bit of that something to chase, it
Hmm.
is good for both hobbies. It is
Yeah.
good for both hobbies for something to be chaseable, chase-worthy, attainable, drinkable, and then you can have that debate with your friends of whether or not it's worth it.
Yeah.
Same thing with the Freddy Dunks, right? Like, gosh, you gotta have it to really
Yeah.
like get one of those. You know what I mean?
Well, really quick, like even when I got into whiskey, like I was enjoying the taste. Like I didn't know anything about like online and what secondary was at this point. Like I was just like enthralled with even just like the process of making bourbon. Like so I was like deep diving YouTube videos and all that. But I remember once I started getting certain bottles before things became really hot. So I would say this is like 2014, 2015. So I had, the Stag Juniors and like these bottles I would pick up, to be honest, fairly regularly in Weller Antiques and like in the old squat bottle, which I have
Oh,
in behind me here, right? So I
I'm
was
on my
grabbing
last
these
one.
things. You have some still. Yeah, my brother does, and he's kind of just like nursing it. But um, it was cool because I would drink it, but people would come to my house and like pick this up for 60. You know what this goes for? 200 easily. So it was like this like it was like a little bit of a flex, but I'm like I'm opening it and enjoying it anyway. But it's just fun to kind of
It's
share
it's
that. But
yeah, it's just to like add to the importance of what I'm sharing with you, right? Or
yes.
or somebody learns a little bit about like, oh, like hey, people I love blends. I love blends for this reason. I will tell you something. Like here, and by the way, here's a hot take.
Yeah.
Stop saying Blanton's is good or bad. It's a single barrel. You can't
Yeah.
say if it's good or bad. You might have the most delicious Blanton sitting right, you're refusing to open it.
Yeah.
But that's a beautiful one because everybody recognizes the bottle and it's so approachable because it is low proof.
Yeah.
And you could crack that with friends and family. I still remember I was having a barbecue, shocker, and a couple of friends were like, "Oh, you got any Weller?" Well, I came right out the bat with the Weller Full Proof. I had just gotten a Weller Full Proof, and they
Mhm.
were like, "Whoa, whoa, that's way too hot. This is not delicious at all." I was like, "Oh my gosh, I should have started with like a 12, or I should have started with something a little bit lower proof, right? Like that was my mistake. I just assumed that they wanted the high velocity, that they wanted the fast pitch right out of the gate.
Yeah. No, but that's exactly it. And um the like oh Blanton's even just off the bat, like until I had two side by side, I remember being the same person. I wanted to hate on it because because it was easily accessible to me. I was able to like hate on it because I had a bottle or whatever. And then
Right.
I put two side by side and one was like magical. The other one felt muted. Like and then you remember that it is a single barrel, just like I have certain Knob Creek. I had a Knob Creek one the other day, a single barrel blind. My wife had set up for me, and I was like, "Did you pull something off my top shelf? Like, what is like?" And it was just a Knob Creek single barrel, but it was
How old was
awesome
it?
because it was just like the regular like barely like it's like 9 years or nine like, and it was still like the 120. So this was from I think it was a Liquor Barn pick from 2 years ago. But this thing
Yeah.
is amazing, and it's been sitting on my shelf, and I remember enjoying it. But having it blind, I was like, what did you get into? Because I like doing that once in a while just to like for fun, like
Right.
pour me something blind. And
Yeah.
I thought for sure it was something from my top shelf, and no, it was that. And I was like, wow, like I see that in a different light. Like I knew that some of those picks are phenomenal, but just reminds you kind of like those everyday shelfers are excellent.
Oh, I got to tell you, like Knob Creek might be one of the bourbons that made me fall in love with bourbon. Like the way that
Yeah.
I got into bourbon, just quick story is like, so I'm again, like I said, you're traveling, it's Jim Beam Black. If it's not Jim Beam Black, you go to Knob Creek. And then I realized Knob Creek is Jim Beam. And then I was like, well, wait a minute. Now I want to try the Knob Creek Barrel Proof. I want to try Booker's. I want to try Jim Beam Bonded, Jacob's Ghost. Remember that one?
Yeah.
I want to try everything. And I tried everything in the Beam catalog. And then I went over to Buffalo Trace and I was like, oh, well, 10-year-old Buffalo Trace is equal rare. I chased that one down and they were available in Targets all the time for
Yeah.
35 bucks. We didn't know how good we had it, guys. But
Yeah.
you explore what a mash bill does with age or proof.
Yeah.
And it's magic. And when you have, the size of the warehouses that Beam and Heaven Hill and Buffalo Trace now have, you're gonna find some magic. So but there is some part of me that like I don't want to teach people that you always have to chase a single barrel. Like there's some magic to what a Drew Mayville does. And
Yeah.
he says, hey, here's Eagle Rare 12 for the country. And we all taste the same thing. And Eagle Rare 12 was phenomenal. The
Yeah.
Sazerac 125 is phenomenal.
Yeah.
I just saw Sazerac 125 came back in my store. I know Eagle Rare 12 is going to be like a twice a year release, I think, like a spring fall.
Hmm.
But credit to the blenders that give us stuff that we can all like you and I on a podcast talking about two different single barrels. Like, what good does that do for like the community? What good
Yeah.
does that do for like the average person listening? Even myself, I've wrestled with, I used to never want to write about single barrels, but here I am, I do video reviews.
Hmm.
But, I want to do video reviews for some of these NDPs because it shows their prowess that they're not putting out junk. But on
Yeah.
that flip side, if I pumped a single barrel that's now way gone. And you go by that single barrel from that NDP and it's way different. It's way, it's like, gosh, I still wrestle with it. I gotta admit, I still wrestle with it.
Yeah, I think for myself, it just becomes like I have gone back more to like a solid, like standard blended product. Even like Four Roses small batch select. Like,
Oh,
oh, like yeah, like
good night.
man, like that was like one of my first like really nice like special pours, and I come back to that and I just feel like I'm always down for a story, okay? If we're gonna pull on like my English background or love for film, the single barrels are fun. And if I have someone who like maybe like lures me in with the story or my store, like I trust my store in terms of like when they kind of hand something off and like we have a good rapport over the years. And that's fun, but I can't put that out online like unless I'm like usually when I even do those reviews on my page, it's more of like to share a fun story than
Yep.
less about like pumping the brand or because I'm like I know you might like well not might you probably won't taste this ever because it's like at one store here. So like what service am I doing? So unless I have something to share, you'll notice when I do those reviews, it's more of like fun parallel angle, like it's more of like
Hmm.
with the movie, more about the thematic connection than it is like the whiskey
Correct.
itself.
Yeah, like who is the founder? Why did he start the company? Like Silverthorne Reserve just sent me a 4 grain that's like beautiful. I don't know if it's a 4 barrel blend or he has 4 barrels of the 4 grain.
Yeah.
Um, but I want to support him and his story. He helped start up Sagamore and all
Yeah.
that stuff. He's a great guy. So that one I'm really excited about. I think, and that's the other thing too. That's another interesting thing about the marketplace right now is like, I take a look at a guy like Bill Binder, right? So Bill Binder has this exclusive contract. He can get this exclusive stuff from Willet. I'm a 4 grain junkie. I go do a pick with Southern Spirits, and
Yeah.
lo and behold, he has 8-year-old experimental 4 grain distillate from Willet
Wow.
that Willet will never put into a purple top because it's not their profile, it's not their mash,
Yeah.
but he gets to hang on to it and he gets to put it out. Yeah, I'm going to spend a little bit more money and I'm going to brag about that. I am
Yeah.
going to brag
Of
about
course.
that because it was delicious to me. So
Yeah.
in that case, I think Bill deserves a shine for that.
Yeah.
So again, like there's a lot of like rules I used to have like 5, 6 years ago that I've slowly like torn away. I'm just like, no, I'll live with it. It's a different era now too, and that's where I'm still trying to figure out. Like, I just hope the person that's buying a $200 Barton that's 12 years old, I have no doubt that it's delicious, but I also hope that you're also willing to spend 50, $60 on a mid-tier distiller out of Michigan or like a J. Henry,
Yeah.
right? Like a J. Henry, I still can't believe those guys haven't taken off more. I still love J. Henry out of
Yeah.
Wisconsin. But they're 60, $70 and unfortunately, they've never bought anybody else's barrels. They've just grown their own corn.
I feel like we are moving into a really cool time of like seeing like even uh Peerless announced they're doing
Just hit
their
10
10
year.
year. Yeah,
Read my
and
mind.
yeah, and I'm pumped for it. Listen, quick side note on Peerless. I for a while I never tasted Peerless, okay? And I was like this whole like we don't know like we're gonna buy a single barrel at the shop. It's $120 and we won't tell you how old it is but here's the flavor. I got one. So my friend was there and he picked me up one. And I was like, when are you going back? I'm like a hooked junkie. And I'm like, I take back everything I thought before because wow. Just like, yeah, with those little stickers on the side, listen, if you're listening to this, they're right. Like mine was like a caramel coffee and it's like a low proof. It's like 53%, I believe.
Yep.
Wow. Like just honestly one of my favorite bottles right now.
I'll tell you, I had an article turned back because so when Peerless first came out and they were releasing stuff at 2 years old, and they had an event in Chicago, and I went out to the event, and I was like, 2-year-old whiskey, $80. But it's sweet mash. And to that point, like nobody really, Wilderness Trail was short, like a fast follow after that.
Yeah.
Nobody else was really doing sweet mash. So I was like, okay, let me see what sweet mash 2-year-old tastes like. And it was phenomenal. It was like liquid candy. And I wrote the article and I wanted to give it an 8 out of 10 actually.
Mm.
And my editor was like, there's no way you're giving an $80 2-year-old an 8 out of 10. And I'm like, dude, I'm telling you, they're onto something. And lo and behold, here we are 8 years later. And I cannot wait to taste that 10-year-old. I
Yeah.
cannot wait. And there's a lot of these craft guys that are coming out with 7, 8 Holiday out of Missouri, or Kansas, wait, Kansas City, Missouri, right?
Yeah.
Sorry, it's late in the night, guys, right? But you've got Holiday, you've got Starlight's getting 10-year stuff. Bardstown and Green River now have 7-year-old distillate. And
Yeah.
the Green River Wheateds guys, Green River Wheated's a problem.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
gonna be a problem. And there's a lot of people that are blending that Bardstown weeded, and Bardstown has that weeded stuff too, and that stuff is really good.
Yeah.
And they've been contract distilling and they've been pumping stuff out for years now. So
Yes.
oh man, it's a wonderful world for weeded. It's a wonderful world for rise now. We got double digit age rise now. That's the reason I keep pumping like drink more rise guys because we have these high proof double digit age rise like the stuff that's coming out of Circle City and Brook Hill where they got these MGP double digit 12-year 13-year-old rise.
Oh yeah.
Goodness gracious. I mean,
Yeah.
yeah, I'll pay $200 $300 for that. Absolutely I will because I get it. I get it. But $50 for an experiment, spend it.
But yeah, the Freddy Krueger shoes. I have one more question, and then we're gonna do something fun to wrap this up. But so the whole backstory is that Nike didn't actually get the licensing. So it was a concept they were gonna do some alongside other films, and I can guess that at the time it was the camp of Warner Brothers. I know this because I have a friend who does like horror merch, so he does all the licensing. So it's very like they're very finicky. Like you have to get approved and
Yep.
very
Yep.
basic, like in terms of like they only want an image of Freddy on it and they have to like approve the concept. So supposedly like Nike destroyed these pairs of shoes. And then only a tiny number escaped, and that's why they're worth so
Yep.
much. Is there like I would think Nike would be on top of licensing. So
Mm.
is there another story that you have quickly?
There's a very good story. There's a
Like you
great story because in the golf world, these are 3 pairs of shoes that live in infamy. These go for 20, $30,000 sometimes if you can find them. And at one point they were floating around Ross's. So the story goes that for the Masters one year, well, I can't say the Masters. So here's the thing is that there around the first major of the year, which
yeah.
occurs in Augusta, you have to have official licensing if you want to, if you're Peter Millar, you can sell Masters polos in the gift shop because you have an agreement with Augusta National.
Hmm.
Nike has never had such an agreement. However, around the 4 majors, they always release special edition shoes. And one year there was a Jordan 11, which again, Jordan 11, the holy grail of golf and
Yeah.
basketball shoes. There was a Roshe, and I forgot what the third shoe was. It escapes me. However, they were green and white, and they were green with white snake. The green of the white was snakeskin,
Uh-huh.
supposedly.
Okay.
And there's a famous painting called The Praying Hands that
Hmm.
look like this if you're watching on video.
Yeah.
Well, Nike has a version where the hands have golf gloves on them and they're clapping. And those were on the tongue and they were yellow, red, and white. So the rumor, the two rumors are is that somebody leaked at some point when the product went live, there was a reference to Amen Corner.
Hmm.
And the reference to Amen Corner is trademarked. And the fact that it had clapping hands on it, Nike Legal said, get rid of them all. Destroy them. We are not playing games with Augusta National. The other
Yeah.
rumor, and these are all rumors, by the way, so I am just sharing what I've heard third hand. This is not direct from Nike. It is not direct from Augusta. I'm just sharing this story. The other theory was that Augusta National also goes after anybody who uses all four of their signature colors. So
Oh.
you might see special edition green and white shoes from other brands. You might see special edition stuff that's like yellow and red in reference to like the flags, but you will never see anybody really use all four colors together on a product because Augusta National will protect their IP. So again, the Nike Legal stepped in and said, "Hey, you guys can't sell this. We are not risking it." And they dispersed. And then they started popping up in Burlingtons and Rosses.
Wow.
And you have these people that have these and you see them for like $3,000, $4,000 because they are out in the wild. People were picking them up for 25 bucks in like random places. So what happens is a lot of times is that, yeah, maybe like it's a big ship. It's a big ship,
Yeah.
and the process starts like 2 years at a time. And sometimes, it'll take you 2 years from like concept to production to the shipment. And somewhere along the way, somebody, there's different levels of legal. Yeah, the legal team might say, "Ooh, that just landed. I don't like the way that looks."
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, when you're like a huge company like Nike, sometimes it's better to err on the side of caution and just destroy stuff or and in this case, right? Like look, if somebody told you go destroy 5,000 pairs of Freddy Krueger shoes, you would have saved some. You would have put
Yeah.
some in the back of the truck, right?
Yeah.
It's not like cops are gonna like make you destroy it kind of thing. So stuff like
Yeah.
that leaks. So in the golf world, that is the like probably one of the most famous Nike shoes of all time in golf.
That's cool. I like that.
Yeah.
I didn't, Matt, this is why I ask these questions because I know you're going to come up with some great great answer. I'm going to pull one out of your playbook. First of all, we're going to do a
Oh,
3, 2, 1 rapid fire. All right. But
my guy, my guy.
I want to drink something first. So I have a little bit of Weller CYBP here.
Oh my goodness. Which batch was that?
This was 2019.
I swear the first two batches were so good, so honey laden. And
I
everybody loves to take like go against the like, oh, that one's off. No, those are beautiful whiskeys, the first two batches.
Yeah,
Uh,
so I'm gonna pour some in here, but what I'm about to do next after this might upset people, but Matt told me this is what you're supposed to do. So I have some
yes, sir.
Mountain Dew here.
I'm out of Diet Coke, but I would do the same.
So I knew that I had to mix something. And you know what? I'm as much as it might be to someone who collects, like it might sound silly, but I have a lot of bottles that are really nice. But I thought out of profile, the Weller CYPB would actually work really well with Mountain Dew. This was like a very intentional pairing.
Oh, let's
We'll
see.
see. We'll see.
Let's
Okay,
see.
so I'm gonna pour some here, and then we're gonna do this rapid fire.
The only reason I'm hesitating is because I think Mountain Dew is so citrusy. I don't know if the Weller can stand up to it. I
Yeah,
feel
it's
like a
kind of soft.
rye, yeah, I feel like a minty rye might ride with the citrus a little better, but you
Yeah.
let me know, friend. I'm living for this right now.
Okay. So it is really nice, but it's like lacking that punch. I think like where the rye would come in and kind of give it
Or
that
a
bit of spice. This almost
114.
just kind of like blends really nicely. Like it's like almost just like this elevated Mountain Dew
It's an
experience.
elevated Mountain Dew, right? Exactly.
Yeah.
Well,
All
that was
right.
funny because Bourbon Pursuit, we recorded in the morning and I had a Baja Blast famously, and I blanked on that. They're like, "Oh, what pairs well with Baja Blast?" I was like, "I should have been a rye. It definitely should have been like this Pursuit rye that I just poured, the
Yeah.
triple mash. This thing will kick butt inside of
Oh
a."
yeah.
I was recently at a cocktail contest, guys, by the way, and everybody did bourbon cocktails. I guarantee 80% of those cocktails would have been better if they had rye in them.
Oh yeah. Yeah, 1,000%. I will stand by that. Like rye, because you want something to punch above. Because if you're mixing in
Mhm.
all these other nice things in there, I still wanted to cut through. And I think like the rye would do that. Like I almost want to go inside after we're recording. I probably will, just to have one more and throw some rye with Mountain Dew.
And think about it, typically like most of the cocktails that you're drinking, they have like sweet mixers already in them, and bourbon is sweet. So you're just putting sweet on top of sweet, and that's why I
Yeah,
don't like cocktails typically, but whereas a rye will be peppery, minty, maybe a little bit more like dill varietal, vegetal,
yeah.
that kind of thing. Those will play so much better in cocktails.
Well, Matt, you have your drink ready? We're gonna do this three, two, one
Yes.
rapid fire.
Let's do
Okay.
it. I have
All
my
right.
triple mash in honor of 3, 2, 1.
Yeah. All right. So, three favorite wrestlers of all time.
Wow, Undertaker, number one. Gotta be, that's my guy. Shawn Michaels, HBK, and then I'm gonna go with Stone Cold Steve Austin. No, no, no. Sorry, Stone Cold. It's Macho Man. It's Macho Man Randy
Oh, Macho.
Savage.
Yeah. Okay.
Final answer, Macho
Yeah.
Man, HBK, Undertaker.
I like that. That's a really strong trinity right there. Okay. Two most slept on whiskey brands or bottles.
So underrated. Let me give you two underrated distilleries then. I will say J. Henry and Pursuit Spirits.
Yeah. You know what? Like, Henry, I'm right there with Pursuit, 1,000%. Last one. What is your one white whale sneaker?
Yeah, Jordan 11 from the Masters. That's an easy one.
That's-
That's the one.
But before we finish up here, is there anything that you want to mention you have going on? If there's anything that you want to throw out there where people can find you, the floor is
Yep.
yours, brother.
If you guys like mostly my whiskey hot take shenanigans, you can find me on Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok at Matt Kusek, MattKusek. And then if you do like sneakers and you like golf, you should listen to the Swoosh Life Podcast. I'm a co-host. We are at the Swoosh Life Podcast on Instagram and TikTok. And you can find us on Apple, Spotify, YouTube, which we're trying to grow, and wherever else you find your favorite podcasts.
Matt, cheers, man. I appreciate it. Thank you
Brother,
for coming on here. And for all you listening, let me know in the comments, like favorite shoes. Like there's so much to talk about here, right? Like favorite Svengoolie episode, favorite pair of shoes. Like it's everything. I want to hear it in the comments, and I'll have Matt chime in there too and razz you a little bit.
oh,
But
we got to
Matt,
do a part two. We got to do a part two.
cheers, brother.
Cheers.